WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak truth into the community. Happy New Year. Watch us live on Smart TV, on Roku, cable channel, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now on Fanbase and Blue Sky. Search for the WCEG and subscribe on all social media platforms. I am Anthony C. Aiken, co-host of this soon-to-be 11-year show. And with me is my good friend. Who are you, my brother?
I am Herman Anderson, and it's another year, great year. We've had fun down through the years, and we're gonna keep and helped a lot of people, empower the community. We're gonna keep doing that.
That's right. So what we need you to do now is download for free the WCEG mobile apps, Alexa, play WCEG Talk Radio, and listen to WCEG on any of our 12 platforms, or podcasts, distribution platforms. Last but not least, our disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. And again, Herman, Happy New Year, my brother.
Happy New Year, my brother. You are my frat brother, as long with my
You
brother
see what see what that
another
cup says,
mother.
right? Thank you for your support. Because we have been a team, a glorious team. And if you allow me, Herman, just 1 second. Do you realize that our mustard seed started 11 years ago? We had no idea where we would be and how we are going to get there. But last month, we were told by our tremendous leader that we now have under the WCEG network 4.5 million listeners worldwide. And we're ranked very highly by the Kresge group that ranks organizations and radio shows like ours. So that's a commitment. That's something that has just been tremendous. And I just wanted to share that with our client base and customer base. So what do you think about that, Herman?
I think it's wonderful. I know it's wonderful. Uh, we at WCEG Media, including all of us, are committed to empower the community, to help veterans in their families, and that includes uh, everyone because someone has a veteran in their family somewhere. So we're on a wonderful journey. Is what is mine.
Well, you just said something that was really paramount. One time I was in Washington, D.C. at a conference, and the guest speaker got up and he said, I'm going to give you a test right now just to show you how much we're connected. And he said, I'd like for everyone in this room to stand up that is a veteran. There must have been about 1,000 people in that room. So maybe about 400 people, Washington, D.C., of course, 400 people plus stood up. He said, that's tremendous. Now you guys stand, or you people stand. Now I want to have people sitting there. If you have a family member that's in the military, uncle, aunt, cousin, whatever, stand up. So it goes from 400 to about 700, maybe 8. And then the last dealing was, hey, how many of you have constant communication or work with or support from the military? Room was full. Everybody stood up. So that goes to show you with our show, Veteran Today Talk Radio, when we say we speak truth into the community, we are speaking truth to a whole wide world network of veterans. And that's why it's so compelling to me, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, that this show adds value to our community.
It does. In the WCEG media family, we have a network of programs, and we are veterans today. So we focus on our particular program focus on certain no no we talk we knew different languages down through the years. we in certain lanes, there are people in other lanes. We're in the lanes to try to help veterans get their benefits and understand their entitlements, medical, dental, burial. That's entails a lot.
Well, I see that we have an unbelievable guest on today, Herman. An unbelievable guest. We're talking about Rod Edmond, MD, JD, a medical doctor and a lawyer. And he will be able to speak truth into our community. Because I can tell you, knowing him and the type of person he is, he's a very straightforward, truthful individual. So I'm just excited that he's our first guest for 2026. He's going to set the mark for us, Herman.
You know what? Let me get a better angle over here if I could, Colonel. Okay. It's dark, but I'm trying to work with you. And I was trying to get on there we go. This is better. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, you just popped in and if just allow us a few minutes ago, we're still sugarcoating you a little bit. Okay.
Very good. All right.
But I've known this young man for a number of years, a young man of integrity, a young man of hard work and commitment, community involvement, comes from a great pedigree of family members that I know, and he'll find out in a minute that you know Herman. So since he's already online, Herman, everyone under the WCEG Network family worldwide, today we have with us Rod Edmonds, medical doctor, lawyer. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Colonel. How are you?
I am just top of the day. Herman, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon. I am Herman Anderson. I'm a Vietnam Air veteran. I'm, as my friend would say, I'm a country boy from South Georgia. I grew up probably knowing some of the people that you knew. I grew up down in Dublin, Georgia, Lawrence County.
Wow. Ooh.
Well, I walk. We can talk about that later.
We will.
I spent finished high school in Lawrence County, Dublin. Went in the Air Force for 4 years. Went to Savannah State for 4 years. Went to work for the Bell System for about 40 years, and that's the the corporate side of my life. And my veteran, as a Vietnam veteran, I determined after serving in Vietnam and uh, Anthony and a lot of my friends are Korea veterans. I'm one of the guys that did my time, got out and did other things, but I always a veterans. Always I put in my time in Vietnam, so we one of the things that make me tick is veteran benefits, and so that is what I've been doing for quite a few years now. 10 of them been with Anthony. So that's we focus on helping veterans, as I say, understand their entitlement and benefits, and that there's a lot of opportunities that are created for your family when someone in your family commits to the military and become a veteran. So one of the things we do here is help people to understand how to get them.
Herman, you well spoken because the next 45 minutes or so, Rod Edmonds, MD, JD, is going to be the star of our show. And one thing I like about him, no, wrong word, love about him, is that he always speaks the truth. He's been committed to telling the truth. And when I asked him, and understanding his philosophy, I said, you're right down the road where we want to go because we need you to tell us the truth. So, Rod Edmonds, for our worldwide listeners, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask the pervasive question that you hear all the time, won't he do it? This gentleman just mentioned his roots in Dublin County. And I think you know that's where my roots are too.
Correct. Matter of
My
fact, he's gonna come back on that.
my dad grew up in Dudley, Georgia, and which is 10 miles outside of Dublin. And he rode a bicycle 12 miles to school and back. And there was a little school there. It taught everything from kindergarten to high school. And you probably remember the name of it. What's it called? It was called. I'll remember it in a minute. But I've been back to the reunions and everything. And there's a lady in Dublin who is the angel, God rest her soul, for our family. Her name is Miss Baker. Miss Baker taught school and taught my dad. And when my grandmother passed,
Not to interrupt you, but she also taught me.
that's what's up.
Isn't
And
that
I am
something?
welling up a little bit. I'm crying a little bit because won't he do it? Because my dad's mother died when he was 12 years old, and Miss Baker took her. She was his teacher and saw a little promise in him, and took him under wing. And when he finished high school, you know, one of the three black men that graduated from high school in the 1950s in Lauren County, she said, "Man, just go into the military. Don't stay in Dudley because you're going to wind up working in the mill, and you'll never leave." And so he went in as an enlisted soldier and spent 4 years, became a sergeant, and took the ROTC scholarship to Tuskegee, where he became the commander of the Tuskegee ROTC program, got a regular Army commission. And I'm just going to tell you, and this is back to your question, Colonel, who am I? I'm a product of the military. I'm a product of slavery. I'm a product of Jim Crow. I'm a product of the Civil Rights Movement. And more importantly, I'm a product of how it is that the military has lifted hundreds of thousands of black people out of a familial pattern of, I'll say, lack of accomplishment, and moved us into sharing in the wealth of this country. And so, the easy thing, I told you who I am. I'm a soldier's son. I spent 5 years in the military also, but I went to Morehouse College, the greatest institution on the planet, short of Tuskegee Institution.
I
Because
was about to say, hold up.
wait, I'm gonna put it into perspective, because but for Tuskegee, there would be no me. All right.
Yeah.
And then I went to Duke University Medical School. I was up on the demilitarized zone on the DMZ, packing a 45 and wearing a Kevlar helmet and defending this nation. And then went back and served 4 years at the Pentagon as an officer physician there, while I went to law school at night at Georgetown. And I came back to Atlanta. Kept practicing medicine for about 5 years. I was a medical director at the DeKalb County Jail, and then wound up getting into law back in, it's like 2000. And I will say this, once I started practicing law, I've never worked a day in my life. So that's my background.
It is absolutely awesome. As I told you, Herman, speak truth into the community, comes with a strong pedigree. And I can tell him publicly and to our listeners and to you, his father, Lieutenant Colonel retired Holman Edmonds, I called my father because he was my mentor. He was a straightforward man to tell me, Anthony Aiken, this is what I think you should consider, because I've been there and done that. I listened to him. And I could also say publicly that it was my honor as the president of the Tuskegee University ROTC Hall of Fame is to see Lieutenant Colonel retired Holman Edmonds inducted into the Hall of Fame because of what he's done, not only for, his family, but for this nation. So when you say you're a son of a military brat, yep, you are, but you come from excellent pedigree. Your mother, Miss Dorothy Edmond, is like my sister. And we're very, very, very close.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was so good to see you at church on Watch Night at Ben Hill United Methodist Church
That's
on the
right.
31st of December. So there's a lot of connections there. So thank you very much for being our guest, the first guest for this year. But I want to buckle down a little bit. With your military connection and your medical connection, have you been able to help veterans in any way seeking the two different types of lines of expertise that you have, especially in the line of having some malpractice concerns or whatever? Can you elaborate on that for our audience?
Well, the answer is yes, and I want to back up off of it a little bit, and I want to be honest about who I am. You know, I practiced medicine for 12 years as a general practitioner, and I've been suing doctors and hospitals, including the VA system sometimes, for the last 25 years. And you asked the question whether or not I've been able to help veterans, access the system. The answer is yes, not at a high volume, but it really has been in the context of me representing them as a lawyer. I want to just double down on this, and I think that you and our other guests can identify with this. The biggest issue that I see with the veterans health care system, other than it being inadequate at times, is that there's so many people who have access to it who don't know they have access to it. I'm going to say that again. There's so many former soldiers and veterans who can access the system and they don't even know it. You got kids that have been in the military for 4 years, when they were, ages 17 and 21, and they got out and they lived their lives and left the military behind. Guess what? They've got resources, they've got access, and they don't know it. I'm going to give you one anecdote and then I'm going to be quiet. And this is not somebody who was not a high achiever. This is one of my dearest friends. He was in the military for about 5 years. He was in intelligence. But while he was in the military, he was stationed up in Virginia. I think it was like, Fort, somewhere one down there, begins with an M. But anyways, it was in Alexandria, Virginia. But he was there, and he went to law school at American University. And after he finished his service, because he was in ROTC in college, he got out and became a lawyer and kept on moving. To make a long story short, fast forward 20 years, he started stumbling and and he had fallen on hard times, and his traditional insurance he had not kept up with. And he was stumbling and having difficulty with balance and everything. And then finally one day they found him in his house on the ground. He couldn't get up and move. He had something called cervical stenosis, which is when you have a narrowing of the area where the spinal cord comes through in your neck, and it crushed his spinal cord. He didn't have strength in his lower extremities or upper extremities, and he couldn't walk anymore. It was something that was completely treatable, but he never went to get it checked out because, in his mind, he hadn't paid for his health care insurance. He completely forgot that he had been in the military for 5 years. He was in Augusta, the best VA system in the nation is in Augusta. They wound up taking him over there. He got the appropriate care. He wound up being a partial uh, paraplegic, meaning that he was in a wheelchair. He could move his arms because he had this compression that was not reversible. But I want you all to back up off of this, Colonel. If he had known that he could have just gone to a VA hospital when he first started staggering and having difficulty in balance, he would still be walking.
Well,
Now,
I can tell you.
now I'm gonna say this. The last part about it is that this is the part that we're being real today. And this dude was like my brother. He was a frat brother of mine. He's a Kappa. Probably 6 months after he wound up on the floor, unable to move, and he had been through rehab at the VA hospital. They released him. He was back at his home. He called me like about 6 days earlier. He said, Rod, he said, look, man, he said, I'm in a wheelchair. I cannot move. I can't walk. He said, Rod, I have to manually make it so that I can clear my feces. And then he said, damn. We prayed together. I told him to keep his head up. I told him that things were going to get better. You know, what he was left with right now wasn't the end. Things could always get better. And then 6 days later, he put a 12-gauge shotgun in his mouth and pulled the trigger.
Hmm.
So if I can press anything home to veterans in this show, there are so many veterans. As a matter of fact, there should be like a big initiative to identify everybody who's in the military, who was in the military, who has access to VA hospital privileges, and to send them a notice to let them know and to remind them that that resource is out there. You know, if your regular insurance, you can't pay for it anymore, guess what? You still have that. That's a big deal. So I'm going to be quiet.
No, you, like we said, truth into the community. We can tell you from our personal experiences the last 11 years how we have saved soldiers because they didn't know. We've had cases of a female veteran who was sexually abused for 20 years,
Mm,
got her some help. Another
mm,
veteran from the Korean War era that did not know that since he didn't have his DD Form 214 and his veteran service officer had passed on, he still had access. And once we got his social security number to get him a new DD Form 214, sky's the limit. So you spoke truth that there are opportunities out there, not only from the medical side, but with homes through the VA home buyers program, getting a car, whatever it is, the availability for that. And Herman's organization, Veterans Helping Veterans, as he said at the beginning, his main goal with that organization is to help veterans to understand their benefits and their compensation. So your testimony is right on, as I told you when we first started talking, truth in the community. So your story
Well, and
is
one
good.
point about that, it's not. It's we earned it. So it's not you running to veterans saying, I, I don't think I earned it. You run into veterans saying, I think I make too much money. You get all kind of reasons, and that's is there no that's unacceptable. If you served in the military, and regardless what other benefits you have, also, if you qualify, you are honorable discharge, you meet all the requirements, and you are discharged from the military, we have earned those benefits, and they are available. And that is, I'm a Savannah State alumni, and one of my Savannah State alumni guy when I met when we were 18. That's that's one of the reasons we formed this organization. Is there are veterans out there, there are families out there that have other opportunities, and there are some that has no other. The veteran is their veteran benefit is their only opportunity. So the goal is to have everyone to know that is that's one of the options you have earned in life is there.
So
Herman, let me ask you this. And again, what I've experienced is that there are tons and tons of veterans who just, they put in their 4 years and got out. And once they got out, they were like, I'm through with it.
I'm done.
Right. And they don't even know that they have benefits.
Well, let me
Is
give you
it
an
is and
example.
the question I have is that is there anything that we can do to go to a database and do an outreach and to let people know?
Well, it's the answer to your question is it there's a starting point, and to get to just give you an example of take Vietnam veterans, which I'm one of, which my buddy was, and there's an Agent Orange database
Right.
just for Vietnam veterans, because most Vietnam veterans, like me and like a whole bunch of us, we did our time, we got out, we went and got a job somewhere else, and we didn't deal with the military. But those benefits are there, and that's just a partial. If you look at all veterans and all oper- veterans that don't make a career, veterans that make a career out of it, the the opportunity is there and there. In in my opinion, there are various organizations out there now that are attempting to do what we're talking about, but it's very little progress is being made.
Understood.
I mean, going back to this question, permits in the Agent Orange database, I think that's something worth taking a look at in regards to how information is about benefits and compensations are put out there. I know our media, with our listeners, get it, but there are others we can, you know, possibly approach the VA or even approach some of the local media and local governments that have a strong posture about veteran support to see if that could happen. So I think I'll take that one on, Herman, and take that one on to see using our platform of how can we, based on your question, get more words out there to let folks know that there's an opportunity for you in the VA system if you just know what you need to have done.
Let me double down on it as a former practicing physician in the United States, having paid close attention to the evolution of healthcare generally in the United States. Um, what's going on in terms of healthcare in the United States is catastrophic. Uh, we have, through legislation, turned over the healthcare system to the devices of stark capitalism. And I want to be clear, I'm a capitalist. I believe, buy low, sell high, but there's some services that are not supposed to be subjected to the capitalist forces.
Fully understand.
One of those is healthcare.
Healthcare.
And I want to make a good anecdote, Colonel, and I think your listening audience will understand this. We've all been driven into this. Oh, if you say anything counter to capitalism, then you're communist and you're bad. No, no, no. Let's talk common sense here. Capitalism means that you buy low, sell high. I mean, there is no feeling involved. There is no love or hate. Is do you make the money? And that works for a lot of industries. If I'm get a contract with the state to pave a highway, and I'm the lowest bidder. They're gonna pay me $2 million to do this piece of highway, and I get it, and I go in and I choose to use inferior products and do inferior work. And I lay this highway down, and then 2 months later, the inspectors for the state come back and they see that the road is buckling, the concrete is breaking down. What are they going to do? What they're going to do is pull the road up and lay it back down again, right?
Correct.
Rebid it, and they fix it. Take that same model with healthcare, and you pay a certain amount of money to take care of a certain number of patients. And in the process of taking care of the patients, you use inferior products, you use inferior healthcare providers, and then you have patients who basically suffer the consequences of inferior healthcare. Now you have a former stage 1 colon cancer that now is metastatic. It's incurable. You can't go and pull that road up and lay down another one, this person is gone.
Home.
They're not coming back. And so the consequences from the healthcare system being brutally subjected to the capitalist system are not acceptable. And anybody with a soul can see that. And so I'm going back to veterans. You know, we have so many people now, many of them veterans, who are being kicked off of their traditional healthcare plans. They can't afford them. You know, you're talking about the pre-existing conditions. You know, how is that a debate? It was a debate. You know, you had our government wanting to be able to kick people off of healthcare if, in fact, they knew that they had like diabetes or long-term chronic health. That's why you have healthcare insurance to cover all of that. And so my point very simply is this: the demand and the need for the veteran services and healthcare are stronger today than there ever have been in history. There are so many veterans who have the resources. They don't know about the resources of the Veteran Administration's office, but they need them because they're getting kicked to the curb by the American healthcare system. And so this is something we got to do, man. We've got to get on this.
And it's something that we're going to take on. And as you know, well, and Herman and I know, the VA healthcare system is the largest healthcare system in the country. In dealing with veterans and their families and various aspects of what the VA can provide. So your testimony is real and true, and that's something that we will definitely take a look at and see how we could help improve getting that information out to veterans about their benefits and their compensation, because it's needed. It's truly,
I
truly
think
needed.
also it as basically a challenge to other veteran organizations, as uh, all of us on here are veterans. There are uh, veterans organizations. You have the big six, to be honest. Then you have the rest of the veterans organization. There's a challenge to all the organizations to do a better job of helping veterans that that have served in the military. I'm talking about organizations like the American Legion, the DAV, the VFW, so forth and so on. Vietnam Veterans of America. Uh, we all those organizations, which I'm a member of, all of them, we can all do better.
Yeah. So currently, have you what seems to be the temperament of veterans that you've seen? Are they having major health concerns dealing with the VA healthcare system as far as being treated or surgeries, anything like that? Are you seeing any kind of cases like that in your practice?
And this is my question.
Yes.
The answer is yes, still. I mean, as you well know, the Veteran Administration healthcare system hit an extreme low probably about 10 to 15 years ago. I mean, the confidence was zero. The service was abysmal. It got so bad that I'll say legislators on both sides of the aisle got together and said we've got to do better. And to their credit, it has improved substantially in terms of waiting times and to get appointments and the quality of the services and then, basically the staffing. It's improved, but it's not where it needs to be. They probably, if I could say, put it in football terms, they're probably on the 45-yard line their own. So they got another 55 yards to go in order to get it right. But I'm not going to lie to you. Relative to where it was, it is a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that aspect. My tolerance level, and I'm sure Herman is the same, is that when a veteran goes into a hospital, he's going there for a purpose. He's sick, he needs surgery, he needs medication, and sometimes they travel far distances. So, regardless, and we know that the system has been rated pretty hard now with some VA system having a rating of 1, which means they're really, really in bad shape. But as a veteran going to that hospital, I need your attention and I need your service. And I need your support. So cognizant of ourselves too, to make the system even more accountable for those that are still there, even though there's shortages and delays and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those individuals that are there, they should be committed to providing the support to veterans 100% when they walk through those doors.
Herman, I'm going to ask you if you can agree with this or not, but I've heard from a number of people that the VA hospital in Augusta is almost like going to Emory. You know what I mean? I've heard it's very, very, very good. What have you heard?
Well, I I know from experience for some of the people that's been treated there, it's uh, the VA hospital in Augusta is very very good, and the treatment once you get in the hospital is is good. The even I since I've been doing this, which has been at least 15 years now. I know people that have been treated, a lot of people that have been treated in the Atlanta VA hospital. It's not once you get there that it's the facility is that bad. It's getting in there and it's being having access to the the doctors that are practicing at the VA hospital in Augusta, the doctors that are practicing in I don't Claremont. I live in Atlanta. Emory doctors. So you getting the skills. You just don't get the access.
So the big issue that you see is just getting in.
I mean that's that's uh it's not just if you get one person out of 10 in, that's not good enough. That's
Understood. Understood. Well, I can tell you what I've heard in my experience is that I think the VA hospital in Augusta, they've got a really, really tight association with, I guess, former Medical College of Georgia, Augusta Medical Center. They've got all these residents and attendings training over there. I went over there and saw the place. The facility is pristine, is clean. Everybody's was professional. Quite frankly, hygiene. It didn't have that. You'll know what I'm talking about. It didn't have that VA smell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
and uh, and I was like, wow. And I'm not. I'm just being factual. It was a marked difference than what I saw over in Atlanta. Okay,
Uh,
so yeah,
yeah. Totally agree. If you go back about 12 years ago, and let's key in just prior to the President Obama administration, where the VA was going under such catastrophic change, the number of, gosh, what, 5 VA directors in 4 years? Yeah, 5 or 6 years, you had a different director,
right.
and each administration came in with a different agenda. But the agendas weren't geared on supporting the veterans and their families. The agenda was, well, how can we find someone that understands the culture of the VA to help those families and veterans? And that has been the case. I mean, it was just a rotating chair. You had an increased numbers of homeless veterans. You had increased numbers of VA officials that weren't doing the jobs and getting pay increases and bonuses and being taken out of a job for incompetence and moved to another VA system to run it. It was just crazy, as you said, chaotic. So the last couple of years, I think there've been somewhat stability in the leadership, but we're not where we should be. Just like Herman
And
stated, and just like you
a
stated,
point
we're
that
not
I
where
would
we should
like to make about, as we say, the VA is the largest healthcare system in the world. It's certain you always have certain pockets. As you know, there's a VA hospital in Dublin,
be.
and
Yep.
everybody, if they can't get what they want in Dublin, they go to Augusta. But that's just a little unique situation. It's not taking care of all of Georgia. It's not taking care of other parts of the VA system that uh, my take on it is you made a point earlier that there's a lot of veterans that don't even know the VA system exists. Those are the people that are hurting, and there's also, I mean, and Anthony pointed out 15 years ago when we started tracing this stuff, they named hospitals like uh, Phoenix,
Phoenix.
LA, Philadelphia. I mean, Atlanta was at the bottom too, where you had a 5 year waiting list. You had like a million of people that couldn't even get access to the VA hospitals, and those are issues that we need to address. Uh, I mean, they have gotten better, like Anthony says, but there's still a lot of what's uh, because I do have my veteran organization is veteran helping veterans, and I get calls about a veteran that need to get in the system because you pointed out they don't have benefits at their other job or they lost them. So if they are in the VA system, they have benefits, and that's in which what's happening with the healthcare situation right now, that's a crisis situation uh, just today where there are veterans as of the end of last year no longer have service they had it with their previous organization, but they can't afford it anymore. And they are veterans, but they're not in the system, so they're not covered by the VA either.
Let me ask our guests, tell us and our audience, how does the Edmond firm, with your background being military, how can the Edmond firm assist veterans if they need your services?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question, Colonel. As you know, I practiced medicine for 12 years. I've been doing law for 25. And ever since I started practicing law, I've never worked a day in my life. Again, I love it. It is my ministry. And what we primarily do is do personal injury. We do personal injury, people who have been victimized, no fault of their own, by people, systems, and the like, and we get them accountability, which in America, accountability equals money. I can't go and chop somebody else's leg off because yours got chopped off. What I can say is this, is that a number of our clients over the years, and I've been doing this for 25 years, I've represented thousands of victims. A good number of them have been veterans. And we've been able to, in all honesty, tap into the veteran healthcare system in order to get them the resources that they need to have the highest quality of life, understanding their limitations and debilitations. I'll give you an anecdote. If there's a person who winds up being a quadriplegic, okay, as a result of some wayward surgery, and we get them a settlement, one of their resources that a lot of times people forget about is that they can go to the VA hospital, and whereas if they got occupational therapy or physical therapy in the traditional healthcare system, it would cost hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. We can basically offset that and get it through the VA system, and we tap into that. So that's kind of what we do. I dare say probably 15% of the cases that I deal with, I deal with the VA system, trying to get more resources for my clients. Uh, what I do want to do, in slightly turning the page, is that I want to talk generally about veterans, and we all who put our hands up and took the oath get it. And I'll say the people who put their hands up, took the oath, and went into a war zone and a war arena get it even more. You know, America loves you when you're a soldier, when you have your ass on the line and you're about to die for this country, but they soon forget you when you come home. They want to forget about the conflict. They want to reap the rewards of what you fought for and keep it moving. And I'm going to say this. I really believe that in all of those 7 organizations that Herman talked about, I wish that there was one of those or 2 of those that collectively got together and said, we are going to consistently put it in the public's face what happened. Think about it. If you've never been in the military, you don't know what war is. You don't know what conflict is. You don't know what it means when you're getting ready to go down the hall and somebody's going to put a knife to your throat, or you're going to have to do the same thing. All right. People don't get it. It is real. It is tough. And this is what people do to protect, or did to protect, this country. I believe that there needs to be a publication campaign to remind the citizens of the United States why it is that veterans are still important. Just because the war is over doesn't mean it didn't happen, man. It happened. And veterans are due everything that they were promised, not one penny less, because what they did at that moment was so substantial and significant to preserving this nation. And I'm telling you, practically speaking, that people, the whole public, will forget unless you put it in their face. Thank God for technology. Thank God for cameras. Thank God for social media so that you can basically put it in front of people's face and it doesn't cost a whole lot of money. That needs to happen. And I'll say this, until that happens, people will always marginalize veterans. They're going to say, okay, okay, you served. They don't know what serving meant. They don't
No,
know.
no, they don't.
They don't know. All right. And the fact that we've even got to have this debate is sick. But it is necessary because people don't get it. The public doesn't get it. The legislators don't get it. And the only way that they're going to know is we need to basically put freeze frames and videos in their face about what veterans stood for in defense of this nation. Show a young kid getting shot while he's out there having the back of his buddy in Iraq. Show that. You know, they need to see it. And until they internalize it and feel it, they're not going to act consistently in the interest of veterans.
You hit the nail on the head, because Herman and I talk about that all the time. It's so good for people to say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. But they don't have a clue.
You don't understand.
They don't have a clue until they have put on those boots, did a road march, been out there in the woods, snow, rain, sun, heat, dealing with all kinds of aspects of in a war zone. And I've been in one. Herman's been in one.
Mm-hmm.
We understand. I can tell you, and I haven't stated this much, but I was coming out of Bosnia, Sarajevo once, and I landed in Atlanta at Fort Benning just long enough to go through the SRP process to get on the airplane to go back to my family. And within 2 days of being with my family, I found myself in Chicago. I had no opportunity to debrief, decompress. I left a war zone where people were fighting to eat and just to survive. And we happened to go to a Taste of Chicago. Taste of Chicago. I didn't know what that meant. So this is 1995, I'll never forget it. So we roll up in the Taste of Chicago, and I see these thousands of people. Now, just think about it. No, 96, I'm sorry. Just think about it. I just left a war zone, and I'm over here in Chicago, and over here, all the buildings are blown up, streets are bad, kids are, just terrible. And I go to Chicago, and everybody's having fun and gaiety, and they were eating food, and this one guy took a turkey leg and took one bite out of it and said,
threw it away.
And threw it away. I could not believe it. They don't have a clue of what it's like to be in a scenario like those folks had to endure, and the freedom that they feel because of individuals like the 3 of us that have paid the cost to keep those borders free.
Yeah, I get it.
Also, it was mentioned in the chat box. You go back to World War II. You go back to those days. Uh, most of the legislatures were military people. Even the presidents were military people. And you start talking about where you start the discussion with getting with community involvement. The people that are representing us now, starting from city councilman, school board, all the way up, have no idea what it's like to be part of the military. They have not served in the military. Our senators and representatives have not served in the military. So it's when, uh, as you mentioned earlier, when you have people that have not been in the war zone, they had not been there. They had they had not had to deal with the moment of truth. They have no when it comes time to make a decision, they are not going to make the decision that's best for the veterans and even for this country.
Well, we go back to that mantra that we always talked about. Freedom is not free. That's number one. And number two, all gave some gave all. And the some that gave all are the ones that put their lives online so we can maintain our lifestyle, get jobs, go out and have fun. Because there's a segment, and Herman can back this up, there's only 1% of our country serving the military. 1%. That's a very small number to keep us free.
Well, Colonel, I'm going to toss this out to you and Herman, and I'm sure it's controversial amongst many people in the United States, but I'm very firm on this, and I've been this way ever since I was a kid. I honestly believe that we need to bring back the draft.
Ah,
All right,
yep.
and I say that because what we have now in the United States is a pimp game. You basically have a volunteer military service. The people who volunteer are the poor, the people who don't have options. They're not going to Ivy League schools or even state schools or whatever. They don't have options, and they're like, okay, I'm finished with high school. Let me just get a job with some structure. And they're the ones who go and lay their lives on the line, and they come back, rack like cordwood sometimes in circumstances. And the legislators, they don't care because it's not their kids. They just keep it moving. I can tell you, I do believe that legislators who are elected by the people will do a much better job at determining what conflicts we enter into, how we prosecute those conflicts, if some of their kids were at the tip of the spear.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. And so I believe
Absolutely.
that through my heart and soul. And know
Absolutely.
this, I'm not talking about trying to sacrifice the best and the brightest. I'm talking about a much more fair system where everybody's got skin in the game,
Yep.
not just the poor people or the middle class. Everybody's got skin in the game.
Everyone. So we all agree with you on that aspect. At the tip of the spear, then they would know. And
They get it.
Yeah,
They
they
get
get it.
it. They
Yeah.
get it, man. When some senator's son who's been drafted out of Brown University is, out there at the front line, man, exchanging live fire with guerrillas, that person's they're gonna have a lot more wisdom in terms of how to prosecute a war. And I can tell you this, I believe in the innate goodness of people. I would assume that senator dad would say, I trust in the United States, I trust in our military systems. My son is out there prosecuting this war, and I'm going to give my son the best tools necessary to have a victory and to come back home and kiss his mama. That's what I want.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to call a name, but we we have an individual serving in the highest position in the land. And then we had a former U.S. senator who spent 5 years as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. And for that person to say, well, he shouldn't have got caught. Or he paid, that's what he signed up for. But yet this person who's remained nameless has not served, 5 times denied service,
Had a
never
bone
wore boot,
spur. Had a bone spur.
bone spur,
Mhm.
never wore boot, never did a
Mhm.
forced march, never ate MREs, never slept in the woods.
And you
None
know
of that.
what? And you know what? This isn't on you. This is on me. Okay, I'm a guest on your show.
Okay.
He's a coward. He's a coward. I think if if he was in the scrum, he would run. All
He
right.
was done.
Right. If somebody was coming at him with a bayonet, he basically just open his chest and say, "Plunge it in me." All right. The reality is that that's what happens when you have a nation that is moved by clickbaits and clickbites and sound bites as opposed to substance. Okay. Now I'm not saying that it is unconscionable for somebody who's never served to be the president of the United States. That's ridiculous. I mean, we've had many presidents who haven't served. But I can say this, man, I think it's unconscionable for somebody to be the president who has actively avoided serving. That should be something that excludes you from being able to be the commander in chief.
Totally agree.
Well,
Dodger,
I think
coward, bully, you name it.
that's what we're dealing with today. Is we got to move forward. So how do we move forward dealing with the situation that we're in now, and and really uh, make things better? That to me, that's the question that we have to ask today. We we at this point. So how do we move on and make it better? Because it definitely, I don't want it to get worse.
You know, I raised the point. I think that these organizations that exist should have an organized media campaign to educate the general public about the sacrifices of veterans. I think when that happens, then there's going to be a groundswell of support for veterans at every level in terms of services and whatever. That's my suggestion is that they get together and have a coordinated media campaign to educate the public about what it is that veterans go through and why it is that they should get what it is that they're owed.
Well, I totally agree. And this, we can have as many debates that we need to have on this. But unfortunately, my good friend, Dr. Lawyer Edmonds, we're coming to a close. And you have just provided so much insight. Thank you for your time and your energy and your words, your truths. And you got any alibis before we close?
One thing I want to say is that again, my law firm is the Edmond firm. Go to www.edmondfirm.com. We're here in Atlanta, and we do personal injury. We do everything. We do medical malpractice, tractor trailers. We do premises liability when people get shot. We do some car wrecks. But what's most important is that it's not just about the money for us. Uh, for the 90% of the people that we can't get money for, we spend the same amount of time and tell them the truth about what happened to their loved ones so that they could embrace it and accept it and turn the page and have a full and enriched life. I want everybody to know this is what we do. 404-525-1080, 404-525-1080. The Edmond Firm, that's who we are. And again, what we do is a ministry, and you'll feel it when you call us, okay? All right, God bless everybody.
Thank you very much. Herman, you want to say anything to him before he leaves?
Thank you very much for appearing on the program. I'm gonna call you offline. We'll talk about this
Herman, I was gonna
enjoyment.
call you too, man, because Miss Baker, you know what she told me when I was 9 years old? She said, son, don't play with trash. It'll get in your eye. How about
That's awesome.
The
that?
name of the school was Millville.
Millville. That
Millville.
was it. It was Millville. Mhm.
Well,
All
thank you
right,
very much,
brother.
sir. Appreciate you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye. Herman, what a great show. What a great start of the year. As I told you and others that Dr. Edmond, Lawyer Edmond, would be an excellent first guest for the year.